Welcome to the Capital News. I'm your host, Alex Karitis. Today is Monday, June 29th, 2020. Thank you so much for joining me. Of course, my apologies for being away. As a matter of fact, I'm still away, but was able to get a signal. I'm deep in the Amazon jungle. I got a tribesman up in a tree holding a satellite. He's up there about 120 feet in a tree. Had to pay him about $2.50. Had to bribe him, and then I found this huge papaya in the forest, rainforest. Had to give that up. Had to give that to him, too. I'm not happy about that. Not happy about the $2.50 either, but no, I'm just kidding. He's only up there about 60, 65 feet. Still better him than me. But just so you understand the lengths I go to give you people the news and my insight that you're craving. And again, my apologies for being away, but I needed a break myself. But I'm back. We'll see if I can get one out tomorrow as well. But I needed to come back because I go away for a week, and the insanity just becomes even more insane. We got to talk briefly, at least a little bit, about former National Security Advisor John Bolton, because his book, of course, he's now on the book tour, in the room where it happened, or whatever he's calling this thing. What are his motives? What is he saying? Does it mean anything? Does it add more to the story? Is it pretty much what we already knew? No surprise here, just trying to sell a book. Or is there more to it? The insanity with what our government is getting away with, the insanity with which our Federal Reserve is getting away with. This is criminal. You have to understand this, ladies and gentlemen. It is it is unethical. It is immoral. It is un-American. It is outright criminal. And nobody does a damn thing. They are running away with the loot. Everything and anything that is remaining, they are taking. They're taking. The ship is going down, and the rats are abandoning ship with as much of the goods, with as much as the loot as they can possibly get their greasy, slimy, scummy little hands on. And they don't care about you. They don't care about you. They don't care about you. Understand this first and foremost. This two-party system is a one-party system. Do not forget our podcast entitled 96 to 0. 96 to nothing. No votes for America. These people do not care about you. They're spending money we do not have. They are spending money that future generations do not have, and because of what they have just done and are continuing to do, they are all but guaranteeing that future generations, including the current generation, is not going to be able to produce the type of wealth that is needed to pay for this insanity. So you know how it's going to be paid for. It's going to be paid for with inflation. It's going to be paid for through stagflation. And quite honestly, if they continue with this and or ramp it up, which I believe they are going to ramp it up, then we're going to be paying this through hyperinflation. It is the end of this country. It is over, at least from the ideological standpoint of the United States of America. The idea of America, it's gone in this country. Nobody's standing up for it. There is no Republican standing up for it. There are no Democrats standing up for it. The president isn't standing up for it. They've all signed this into law. They have all passed it. What don't you understand? 96 to nothing. That's just on the Senate side. Then you look at the votes in the House. It's the same difference. What don't you understand? How much more do you need to see before you connect the dots that these two parties are one in the same? They do not care about you. Have you left them yet? Like I have been suggesting and asking of you for months on this podcast to leave these parties. If you're a Republican, become something else. If you're a Democrat, become something else. And don't just switch to the other party. Become an independent. Become a libertarian, a constitutionalist. Mickey Mouse Club. I don't care, but leave them. Have you done it yet? Or do you think I'm a goofball for thinking this? Because you're still entrenched in your silo because you say, oh, it's those damn Democrats, it's those damn Republicans. Do you understand what's going on here? This is the divide and conquer tactics that they have been feeding on and continue to use. You know why? Because it works. Because people think it makes a difference. People think there's actually going to be a difference if Donald Trump is in that White House or if Joe Biden's in that White House. Neither of these individuals are fit for the job. That's how scary this is for this country. Neither of these individuals are fit or capable of handling this job at this time. They're just not. I don't know if they were ever capable of truly doing it. I gave Trump a chance. I voted for him. Not voting for him again. I'm not voting in this election. I didn't vote in 2012 either. But you know what? This guy was an outsider allegedly. He's going to do something different. Let's give him a shot. Let's see what he can do. Well, I'm looking at what he's doing. He's signing off on insanity in thinking and telling the American people that there's no cost to it and that there's going to be a miraculous V-shaped recovery as if nothing ever happened. Well, if nothing ever happened and there are no costs to the printing press of printing endless supplies of money upon supply of money upon supply of money, then give everybody $1 million. Make everybody a millionaire. If there's no cost to it, everybody can be debt-free. Most people, I would imagine, with the $1 million, they can pay off their credit cards, student loans, autos, home, everything. They can get completely out of debt. Just give them $1 million if there's no cost to it. But of course, they're not going to do that because they know that there are costs associated with it. But not one of them is going to come out and tell you the truth because there are no leaders in this country. At least not in positions of power. And that is a true tragedy and travesty. And who's doing anything about it? Nobody. Nobody. They continue to have us playing this game of divide and conquer, distract and distort, misinform, disinform. That's exactly what they're doing. All of these protests, these riots, the statues coming down, the city takeovers such as in Seattle, it's all divide and conquer. Pay attention to what's going on the television screen. Pay attention to what they're telling you on Fox, on MSNBC, on CNN. Pay attention to all that insanity. Get really mad at somebody breaking into a store and taking a television set and a few pairs of sneakers. I'm not justifying it. It's not right. They should be held to account, prosecuted, everything. But are you paying attention to the trillions of dollars that are being looted from the Treasury? And of course, the Treasury is out of money too. They're broke too. You know why? Because it's a Ponzi scheme. This whole country is a Ponzi scheme. The whole system is a Ponzi scheme. What don't you understand? Seriously, what don't you understand? I'm getting sick and tired of this. How many times does it need to be explained? But, well, I heard it on Fox News, and they must be telling me the truth. I heard it on MSNBC, and they would never lie to me. They don't even talk about the things that we talk about here on this podcast. You know why? Because what we talk about here on this podcast, if it was truly revolutionized, if it was really talked about, it would be a revolution. There would be. You got to end the Federal Reserve. You got to abolish the federal income tax. Those are the two starting points. And if you don't do those things, then you're not going to solve a damn thing. And this audience should be well aware of that situation, of those facts. But is anybody truly discussing this? Is anybody putting forward any type of serious legislation? The president talking about? Of course not. The president's talking about the exact opposite. The president is talking about having the Federal Reserve do even more. Negative interest rates. How many podcasts have we had focused on that alone? Negative interest rates, print more money, do what you got to do. And we're going to talk about the Federal Reserve because they continue to actually slow the rate of increase on their balance sheet. Because, of course, I was not here last week. So it's actually been going down the past couple of weeks. It was a continuation of trend. It's still over $7 trillion. We are still anticipating that this number will go much higher in due time because that's what they are going to do. They're not going to pull the spigot away now. They're not going to turn the spigot off, I should say. Stop all this liquidity from rushing the markets. This is what they're doing. We just got a list, and we're going to go through this list, not in its entirety because there's too many names to go through, but the Federal Reserve, released a list of companies whose bonds they are buying in the secondary marketplace. And of course, they've also announced that they are ready and willing to go into the primary market when it comes to corporate bonds. So that's just going to be directly buying it from these corporations themselves. And of course, they have to be deemed quote unquote investment grade, whatever that means. It's going to meet their criteria. And don't be surprised if they start buying junk bonds outright too. In my opinion, most of these bonds are junk to begin with. They're buying U.S. Treasuries. U.S. Treasuries have been junk for a long time, and they're definitely junk now. Mortgage-backed securities, commercial real estate, they're buying it all. These are the rats abandoning ship, running away with the loot. Nobody else is talking about this. Although I have to give some credit where credit is due, you are finally starting to see, at least I have come across this on TV and really across Twitter, because I guess some journalists on Bloomberg and CNBC, they might feel a little bit more liberated, if you will, to voice their opinions on Twitter or some other type of social media platform as opposed to on the actual television station. But they are starting to voice, apparently, their opinions of the insanity that we've been discussing here for so long. They're finally catching up to it, or at least they're trying to protect their rear ends. Say, oh no, see, yeah, well, look, there's credibility. I have credibility. I did question the Federal Reserve. I did say, how can they continue to do what they're doing? I did ask, how are these policies helping the American people? See, it's in writing, it's on Twitter, it's out there. I can find it, copy, paste it, and show you that I at least said this. So it's either a CYA operation taking place here, or they might actually believe this stuff. And I hope they actually believe what they're saying when they are starting to question the Federal Reserve and what's going on. Because you take away the Federal Reserve, you take away all of this money printing and all of this spending from the federal government, which of course is the money printing because the government's as broke as a joke. Do you think the stock market would be at this level? Do you? I mean, this is a very simple question. If we took away all of that money, would the stock market be at these levels? And that's basically the only question you have to ask yourself. And the answer is an obvious no. So anybody who's on Bloomberg or Fox Business or CNBC, and they're trying to put out a bullish case, and they're trying to argue multiples, or they're trying to talk to you about earnings, bunch of malarkey, bunch of BS. This is a con job. This is a Ponzi scheme. This is a counterfeit operation. Pretty much by definition. They're just printing the money. You print the money and see what happens to you. They're going to lock you up and throw away the key for counterfeit. But these people can do it, and they can do it with impunity. And they are. And they are. How can this be happening in the United States of America? How can this be happening? This is what we see. This is what you witness when countries are in collapse. This is what you witness in banana republics. That's what's going on here. Then you obviously have last week the initial jobless claims number coming in above expectations, nearly another 1.5 million Americans filing for unemployment insurance for the first time for the prior week. And now there's new analysis out by Deutsche Bank, which is claiming that half of this country, half of the United States of America, is not working. But don't worry, there's going to be a miraculous V-shaped recovery. You have companies announcing bankruptcies. You have companies saying, we are not going to open up again. We're done. We're closing the doors, and that's it. Yet somehow they're just all going to be coming booming back because we're printing several $1 trillion. If it was that simple, what took them so long to figure this out? I'd really like to know. And why was it only $1,200 the first time around? Are they going to do another one? Is there going to be another quote-unquote stimulus package that is passed? What are they going to do? Are they going to start bailing out the states now? Are they going to start bailing out pension funds directly? What are they going to do next? Are they going to do some type of infrastructure? Are they going to give us another $1,200, $2,000, $2,500? Again, why not $12,000? Why not $120,000? Come on, baby, let's go. Move it up. They're not going to do that. They're just going to give you tidbits. And the other thing, too, with the Federal Reserve, with one of their other BS facilities out there, the Main Street lending facility, only 200 banks have signed up to do it. Only 200 of 5,000 financial institutions that could qualify to do this. You hear me? Main Street. Isn't that the American people that the Federal Reserve is supposed to be working for, right? Main Street. Isn't that, look, that was my question from day one when I started this podcast and going after the Federal Reserve. One of my first articles, maybe my first article posted to thecapitalnews.com. What Americans are you talking about, Mr. Powell? Of course, Mr. Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve. What Americans are you talking about? Because he always opens, or for the most part, opens up his press conferences with the Federal Reserve works for the American people. What Americans? Because you're supposed to be working for Main Street. And only 200 financial institutions out of 5,000 have signed up to help Main Street. And not a single loan has taken place as of yet. Wrap your head around that. Wrap your head around that. Yet major corporations who have the ability to go out into the bond market, to go out and to issue shares, to go out and to get money from a whole host of players, they didn't do it because they don't have to. They can just sit back and let the Federal Reserve buy up all their stuff. And that's exactly what they're doing. And not a word, not a complaint, not from an advocate, from a conservative Republican, who supposedly, supposedly the party that supports and defends free market capitalism. But oh no, it's perfectly fine. Print as much money as you want and buy as much stuff as you want. That's free market capitalism. Now, don't you understand this is a banana republic now? It's not a constitutional republic. So that is free market capitalism. Just print the money and buy your stuff up. No complaint. Not a word of protest from the Republicans. Not a word of protest from this White House or this president. Not even a word of protest really from the Democrats either. Bailing out the bigs, right? The corporations, their whole thing. Bernie Sanders, come on now. Elizabeth Warren, they're not saying anything. They don't even go after Jay Powell. They kiss his butt. They kiss his butt. They might go after Mnuchin because he's a political appointee. He's part of the administration. Jay Powell is supposedly independent. He's saving all of them because there's no leaders. These people don't want to go back to their states, to their constituents and say, we messed up. Can't do this. You want to pay for all this stuff? We got to raise your taxes. Oh, no, we can't raise our taxes. Can't do that. What do you think inflation is? What do you think it is? It's a hidden tax, and it's even worse than actually paying a tax that the government would collect directly. It's even worse because it throws in so many more distortionary effects across the entire pricing spectrum. You understand what you're living in? Do you care? I don't know. I'm starting to think people really don't care what's going on here. And of course, Jay Powell is to go before Congress this week, I believe tomorrow, and some of his comments have already been pre-released because that's what they do now. And he says, well, quote, the United States, the economy continues to face extraordinary uncertainty. Well, thank you, Jay Powell. We didn't know this, but extraordinary uncertainty remains, ladies and gentlemen. A little bit of the markets, huh? Overnight futures trading, we got the Dow Jones up 0.25%. S&P 500 is up about 0.5%. The NASDAQ 100 is up nearly 1% in overnight futures trading. The cash trade in Japan is trading it up 1.6%. Across the pond, all in the green across the major indexes, about 1% across the board. Cash trade in Australia is also up 1.4%. On the commodity front, we have WTI trading at $39.40 a barrel, Brent at $41.39 a barrel. Natural gas has rebounded sharply, but actually over the past week fell to new lows. It fell to prices below what was witnessed when the markets sold off back in March and April. but it is now trading at $1.69. So a wild ride for natural gas. And of course, we have Chesapeake Energy filing for bankruptcy. This is a major player. Of course, they've been in and out of bankruptcy over the past several years as well. But it's another major player filing for bankruptcy. And these lower prices are not doing these companies any favors. Gold is trading at $1,770 an ounce. Silver at $17.85 an ounce. These are some solid prices for these precious metals. Again, I do believe strongly that we are in the midst of a long-term bull run in the precious metals space. They're going to continue to print, borrow, and spend. What do you think is going to happen with these precious metals in time? Now, are they manipulated? You bet your rear end. But market forces will overcome all of this at the end of the day. Mark my words. Uncle Sam's 10-year Treasury. 10-year Treasury junk note. You got that? Emphasize junk note. 10-year. Yielding 0.63% over the past week. This has been on a wild ride as well. This type of volatility, to me, is all a foreshock of something to come. So be on the lookout is all I got to tell you. So we talked about the Federal Reserve's balance sheet reducing a little bit. We talked about initial jobless claims. Top 100 companies whose debt the Fed is buying. Fed reveals plans to buy bonds from 794 companies. And I bet none of them are small businesses, right? Of course not. Not even, it's of course, well, they don't issue bonds, they're not publicly traded, they don't have that. Of course. But are they going to save them? Are they going to bail them out? No, we already know this. We talked about this earlier. Main Street lending facility was already delayed to begin with, and now the banks don't want to lend to them because people aren't working, they have no customers, they have no sales. So what are they going to give them? 10% of the index is made up of 6 companies. $8.7 billion in corporate debt has been bought as of June 24th. And again, this is the Secondary Market Corporate Credit Facility, the SMCCF. So the secondary market, this is buying it from investors, pension funds, anybody who's holding it. So again, secondary is from people who already have it, the investors. Primary would be buying it directly from the corporations themselves. Nevertheless, this is still a direct benefit to these companies because it bids up the price, lowers the yield, the borrowing costs. Okay, here's your list. I'm not going to go through all of them, obviously, but I am going to go through a couple because I think it's important to talk about. Here's at least the top 15. Toyota. Yes, Toyota. You know, the American car manufacturer, Toyota. Another huge U.S. auto manufacturer, Volkswagen. They're number 2 in the list. Then you got Daimler. Yeah. Then you have AT&T. Okay, finally, here we go. All right, AT&T, the most indebted company in the world. Fantastic. Apple, yes, the same Apple that has more money than God. The Federal Reserve is going to buy up their debt too. Verizon Communications, fantastic. General Electric, Ford Motor Company. Oh, well, at least that's finally an American car company. Comcast, BMW, U.S. Capital. Oh, yeah, another great American car company, BMW. Microsoft Corporation, another company that has more money than God. The Federal Reserve is going to bail them out too. AbbVie, pharmaceutical company. General Motors, CVS Health Corp. BP, yes, as in British Petroleum, that American energy firm. Oracle, Walmart, another company that has more money than God. Walmart, yes, Walmart. These are the companies. McDonald's, another one. How is this legal? How is this going on? How can this be taking place in the United States of America? Hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, trillions of dollars. These are the largest corporations in the world. Some of them aren't even American. Why are you on the hook for bailing out foreign companies? Why are you on the hook for bailing out American companies? Because if losses take place, and remember, Steven Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, has already told us under oath, he's already told us that the base case is that on a net basis, they are anticipating losses. So we're going to pay for all this. The Treasury is going to lose. The Federal Reserve is going to lose. But then they will be bailed out by you, the taxpayer. And half of you aren't working. So with what production? With what tax dollars? Don't you have to produce in order for something to be taxed? Isn't that how that works? So where's the money going to come from? Oh, they're just going to print it again. Do you understand what's going on here? Do you understand that this country is over? Do you? Do you understand that they've shredded the Constitution? Do you understand that the president doesn't care and is calling for more of this? Do you understand that the Democrats don't care and are calling for more of this? Do you understand that the Republicans don't care and are calling for more of this? How many more times do you need to be shaken? How many more data points do you need to see before you leave these parties? What do you think voting's going to get you? You're voting for the same people. Do you think you're going to get something different? I'd like to know what you're smoking. Send it to me. That way I can be ignorant and blissful like you. This is ridiculous. They are going to be buying bonds from almost 800 companies. Largest companies in the world. They can issue shares. They can go to the bond market. They can do a whole host of things. And yet the Federal Reserve is just going to print a whole bunch of funny money and give it to them. Bail out the investors, bail out the companies. Any losses that take place, the American taxpayer is going to be on the hook for. It's a true shame. I'm ashamed to be in this country. Never ashamed to call myself an American because those are the ideals that I believe in. But to be in this country, it is shameful. And a lot of the inflation that is going to be generated, a lot of this is going to make its way overseas too. And all of those global protests that we have witnessed prior to COVID-19 and are now coming back, and of course they are here in a theater near you, because I told you this months ago that they would be coming to a theater near you, and they are here, and they are not going away because these people aren't working. They're not working. Half the country isn't working, so where else are they going to be all day? They don't want to be locked up anymore. COVID, no COVID, they don't care. They want to be out on the streets. They want to protest. Some of these causes rightly so, but it's like, okay, come on, especially the people in Washington, D.C., as we joked a couple weeks ago, but seriously too. Yeah, they're protesting in Washington, D.C., but they have no idea where the Federal Reserve is. Again, divide and conquer. Distract the people with these issues. They are serious. Don't get me wrong. I am not belittling them, but they pale in comparison to what's actually taking place, the root cause of so much of this. Just go down the street. It's on Constitution Boulevard, right there, right next to the White House. Can't miss it. You can't miss it. Just a couple blocks away. You really want to start paying attention to what's going on. Unbelievable. So pay attention. We're bailing out Toyota, BMW, Volkswagen. Lovely, lovely, lovely. So that's some of the economic noise. It's like we never went away. It's like we never left. John Bolton, I think the guy's pretty much just trying to sell a book. Of course, I'm no fan of John Bolton's. That's been voiced on this podcast many, many times over. He's a warmonger, just neoconservative, whatever you want to call these people. Bomb everybody. It's ridiculous. However, Do I think he's telling the truth in a lot of in a lot of what he has been saying and a lot of the questions he has been answering? Yeah, I do believe he's truthful in a lot of it when it comes to the demeanor and how the president conducts himself. I mean, that's been said pretty much by everybody. It's been said by people who support him. We've discussed this many times over, too. When I cited that PBS Frontline documentary on President Obama and President Trump, because they have the long-form interviews of the people that they interviewed for that documentary. And I said, go ahead and listen to these things and listen to these people who worked for Trump, still support Trump. Listen to what they are saying about the man. That's what John Bolton's saying, so it's no surprise. It's no surprise. Now, what gets a little dicey to me from the standpoint of John Bolton is he's saying, well, the president should have been impeached and removed for what took place with respect to Ukraine. However, he also wants to have it that says, well, the Democrats didn't do it right. They were too political. They didn't want to go through the court system, so they rushed some things. So he's trying to have it both ways. And he also claims that had they taken their time, the Democrats, through this impeachment process, that they would have been able to come up with even more issues involving other countries as well, namely China. So he's, of course, trying to sell a book. He has every right to do so. He has every right to do so. He's also trying to walk a line. He's also trying to have it both ways, trying to play the politics, still trying to be a staunch Republican conservative, still claiming that he is not going to vote for Joe Biden, but he is not going to vote for Donald Trump either. He's going to find some other Republican conservative that he can write in, yada, yada, yada. But again, he wants to have it both ways. Should have been impeached and removed, but the Democrats messed up. I mean, come on. What's it going to be? So it's the games. It's Washington, D.C. It's politics. It's an election year. What do you expect? Okay, so we'll see what happens to that. What else did I want to mention before I sign off? Because there's just so much stuff going on. One shameful thing after the next. Of course, you have that story also hitting the news wires over the past few days where allegedly Russia, through President Putin, was putting a bounty on U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan, paying Taliban or anybody really a bounty for killing U.S. soldiers. The White House remained silent for a few days. Silence was not the best strategy, in my opinion. Of course, I'm sort of removing myself from this because I think there's a lot of noise around this. There's a lot that still needs to come out. But I don't. This seems like a story that's not going to go away until there's a little bit more of some type of investigation or a little bit more vetting of what's going on here. So I don't have any inside information on this, but it seems like this is a story that's going to be sticking around for a little while. Because if this is true that the president knew this and did nothing about it, well, that's not going to sit well with many Americans. And if this happens to turn out to be another major faux pas by news outlets, my God, with the fake news and everything else, you can't trust anything. You can't trust anybody, which is already the case. It's already the case. But this is just going to be another major sticking point that is just going to put people in this country deeper into their respective silos, because people are already believing what they want to believe with this. And that's the problem here, people. You understand this is one of the many problems that we are facing. People just listen to what they want to listen to. They hear what they want to hear, and that is it. It doesn't matter what information comes out. If you believe he did it, he did it. You're not going to be persuaded otherwise. If you believe he didn't do it, that's it. He's innocent, had nothing to do with it. He was never briefed. He didn't know about it. It's a fake news story. That's it. This scenario and so many others like it is what is destroying this country. It is what is destroying our political discourse. It is destroying civility. And whoever wins the election come November, all hell is going to break loose. Make no mistake about it. All hell is going to break loose come November. And November is a lifetime away. We're halfway through the year already, which is amazing. And look how much has already happened. We got another 4 or 5 months to go before the election. It's a lifetime away. Anything can happen. I mean, quite literally, anything could happen, given what's going on so far in 2020. So whoever wins this presidential election, all hell is going to break loose. I'm at a loss for words at how tragic a state we are in. Not just in this country, but around the world. We as human beings, what a tragic state we are in. We have done this to ourselves. And there is no leadership except for the people protesting. That's it, especially the ones against their governments, for no representation, for no recourse. For the abuse, the fraud, the corruption, the theft, the counterfeiting. Those who are protesting against those causes, those are the only leaders in this world right now. Because you're not going to find them in a central bank. You're not going to find them in a Congress, in a parliament, in a White House, any administrative building. All it takes is a backbone. All it takes is some truth-telling. And it doesn't exist. So can we be surprised when we have national debt that is nearing $27 trillion? Can we be surprised when we have a deficit that's nearing $4 trillion and it will exceed it by the time the end of September is here? Can you be surprised by any of these things? And the answer is no. Where is the discussion for true structural change? Does not exist. Does not exist. Because structural change would reveal the Ponzi scheme that is this country, that is this global economy. So they're just going to ride this bike until the wheels fall off. I hope you're wearing your helmet. It's good to be back. Still away for a few more days. Hope to have another one this week. But if I'm not, you understand why. Stay diversified, stay vigilant, and stay with the Capital News. I am Alex Koritis. Godspeed.